Have you ever been told you and your kids don't belong, only to watch them prove everyone wrong? That's exactly what happened to me, Emily, a single mom trying to protect my two kids, Sophia, 13, and Liam, 11. It was a family dinner that started off normal, but quickly turned cold the moment my sister-in-law, Rachel, dropped her usual judgment. She smirked and said, "Your kids wouldn't last a day in the wild. They're just city kids playing at camping." I tried to keep my cool, explaining that Sophia and Liam had been taking wilderness survival classes for over a year. But Rachel just laughed it off like it was a joke. "Those little classes don't mean a thing out here," she said. "Real camping doesn't have power outlets or bathrooms. It's rough, raw, and only for those who know what they're doing." That's when I found out their big family camping trip was set for Ravenwood Preserve, a remote, no-frills spot deep in the woods. What Rachel didn't know, that land belonged to me. It was a secret legacy from my late father-in-law, my kid's grandfather. I'd kept it quiet to avoid family drama, but now the stage was set. What Rachel doesn't know is this trip is about to become a lesson she won't forget. But before that, there was one more thing I had to do. I remember that night clearly. After the family dinner ended in silence, I sat in my quiet kitchen with Sophia and Liam. Their faces still carried the weight of Rachel's words, the sting of being written off before even stepping foot in the wild. I could feel their disappointment, but I also saw the spark, the hunger to prove they belonged out there, despite the doubt cast on them. That's when I made a decision I'd been quietly planning for months. I grabbed my phone and dialed Mike's number, the campground manager at Ravenwood Preserve. Mike had been my father-in-law's right-hand man for years, the only one who truly understood the sacredness of that land. When he picked up, I wasted no time. "Mike, the family's coming next weekend," I said, "but I want to host something special, a survival skills challenge for the kids, something to show them what real camping is about." There was a pause on the line, then Mike's laugh, a mix of amusement and respect. "Sounds like a plan, Emily. Let's give those city kids a real taste of the wild." Next, I called the Trailblazers Outdoor Academy, the place where Sophia and Liam had been training in secret for the past year and a half. This wasn't just about weekend hikes or roasting marshmallows. They'd learned to build shelters from nothing but branches and leaves, start fires with a bow drill, find and purify water, read weather changes in the clouds, and even identify which wild berries were safe to eat. Basic first aid too, because nature can be beautiful, but it's never forgiving. I told Sophia and Liam about the secret competition I'd arranged. Their eyes lit up with excitement, but I also saw nerves. "This is your chance," I said softly, "to show everyone, especially Rachel, that you're more than just city kids. You're survivors." They nodded, determination shining through the hurt Rachel had caused. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but notice Rachel's social media posts blowing up. She was busy packing her high-end camping gear, tagging her followers, and boasting about how glamorous their trip was going to be. I could almost hear the smugness behind every hashtag. It was going to be one heck of a showdown. Rachel's Instagram perfect camping experience versus the raw, unfiltered wilderness challenge I was about to set in motion. As the days ticked closer, I felt a mix of anxiety and hope. This wasn't just about proving a point to Rachel or the family. It was about giving my kids the chance to shine on their own terms, to connect with a legacy that ran deeper than any family drama. The legacy of their grandfather, who believed that the best lessons weren't learned in classrooms or on screens, but out here in the woods. Little did Rachel know, this wasn't just a camping trip. It was a reckoning, and it was about to begin. But before any of that, there was one last call I had to make, one that would change everything. They showed up first, the whole Rachel crew, with their brand new SUVs, designer backpacks, and that smug look like they were about to conquer the wilderness. But the moment they stepped onto Ravenwood Preserve, the reality hit them harder than any Instagram filter ever could. No electricity, no cell signal, no fancy camp kitchens, just dirt, trees, and silence. Rachel's face twisted into disbelief. "Where's the Wi-Fi?" How are we supposed to survive without our phones? She snapped, pulling her kids closer, like the wilderness was some kind of threat. Her teenage daughter rolled her eyes, glaring at the cracked, uneven ground instead of the screen she desperately wanted to check. The portable stove was useless here. The only fire they'd get was if someone could figure out how to start one with sticks. Their frustration was loud enough to echo through the trees, turning the air thick with tension. Every minute without a modern convenience seemed to chip away at their patience, their perfectly curated trip unraveling before it even began. Meanwhile, I took a different path, a narrow, winding dirt road that snuck deep into the heart of the preserve. Sophia and Liam were bursting with excitement, their faces lighting up as the trees thickened and the sounds of the outside world faded away. We arrived at a clearing where ancient oaks stretched their limbs toward the sky, their leaves whispering secrets in the gentle breeze. A calm, crystal-clear pond mirrored the morning light, and the songs of birds filled the air with an almost magical energy. This was the kind of place where time slowed down, where every breath tasted like freedom. It was the kind of place that made you forget the chaos of life and remember what mattered: connection, resilience, and respect for the land. As I watched my kids step out into the wild, so alive and at home, I couldn't help but smile. They belonged here in a way Rachel and her crew never would. The contrast between the two families couldn't have been starker, one drowning in expectations and conveniences, the other thriving on simplicity and strength. But little did they know, the real adventure was just beginning, and it was about to change everything. The moment the whistle blew, the competition was on. The first challenge: build a shelter. No tents, no poles, just what nature provided. Sophia and Liam, alongside their team from Trailblazers Outdoor Academy, sprang into action with quiet confidence. Branches snapped, leaves rustled, and within minutes, a sturdy shelter began to take shape. Every knot Sophia tied and every branch Liam positioned spoke of months, no years, of dedication and hard work. Across the field, Rachel's crew scrambled, fumbling with their fancy gear and unfamiliar with the rawness of true wilderness survival. Their makeshift shelter wobbled precariously, and frustration turned to panic. Rachel's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and impatient. "This is ridiculous. We were promised a family-friendly experience, not this survival test." Mike, the campground manager, stepped in firmly. "Rules are rules. No exceptions here." Rachel's lips pressed into a thin line, but she knew pushing back would only make things worse. Next up was the fire starting challenge. No matches, no lighters allowed. Liam knelt on the dry earth, bow drill in hand. His movements were precise, practiced. Sparks flew. Smoke curled. Within 5 tense minutes, a flame flickered to life, growing into a crackling campfire. Nearby, Rachel's kids struggled, resorting to lighter fluid. An instant disqualification. Then came the foraging test. Sophia moved through the underbrush with ease, selecting berries and plants, explaining to the younger kids which were safe and which could poison you. "The bright red ones here? Pretty, but deadly. These dark blue berries? Sweet and nourishing." Her voice carried the calm authority of someone who knew the land intimately. Watching from the sidelines, Rachel's pride began to crack. The smirks faded. She shifted uncomfortably as she saw the respect and admiration Sophia and Liam earned, not just from the instructors, but from their own family members. A pang of jealousy mixed with a reluctant awe gnawed at her. Who's really the city kid now? The question hung in the air, heavier than any smoke from the campfire, and it was only just beginning. I never expected to see the look on Rachel's face when she finally had to swallow her pride. Watching Sophia and Liam move with such ease through the wilderness, the way they built shelters, started fires, and read the forest like it was a second home, it hit her hard. The sneer faded, replaced by something softer, almost like respect. And maybe a little envy. It wasn't long before Rachel's kids came over, shyly asking Sophia and Liam to teach them how to start a fire without lighter fluid, how to spot edible berries, how to tie knots that actually held. There were awkward moments, stumbles, nervous laughter, and a few frustrated sighs, but slowly, walls started to come down. For the first time, I saw Rachel's family step out of their comfort zones, stepping into the wild not as visitors, but as learners. That evening, under a canopy of stars, I pulled out the papers that had been tucked away for years, the deed to Ravenwood Preserve. My voice caught as I explained how this land was more than just dirt and trees. It was a legacy from my late father-in-law, a man who believed nature could teach us about strength, patience, and family. The fire crackled between us as stories were shared, the past and present weaving together in the flickering light. Laughter replaced judgment, curiosity replaced doubt. The tension that had hung over us like a storm began to lift. Conversations flowed freely, and for the first time in a long while, we were just family. Flawed, messy, but united. Sometimes, the hardest lesson isn't about winning or proving who's right. Sometimes, it's about opening your heart and finding connection where you least expect it. And that night, we all learned that together. But the story wasn't over yet. There was still one moment waiting to change everything. The fire crackled softly as the night wrapped around us, a circle of faces lit by the warm glow, each one carrying a story, some healed, some still raw. We shared memories of my father-in-law, a man who understood the language of the woods better than anyone. He believed the forest held lessons no classroom ever could teach, lessons about patience, respect, and the kind of strength that doesn't come from muscle, but from knowing your place in something bigger. Watching Sophia and Liam talk excitedly about the next competitions they wanted to join, the skills they hoped to master, and how they wanted to teach younger kids what they'd learned, it was more than just survival. It was a legacy, a thread weaving through generations, binding us all in ways words never fully capture. Rachel, once so quick to judge, sat quietly beside me, her eyes reflecting flickers of firelight and, maybe, a newfound humility. "We should do this more often," she whispered. "Not just for the kids, but for all of us." Those words felt like a fragile bridge between old wounds and new beginnings. But here's the truth I haven't said out loud yet, the kind that lingers in the quiet after everyone's gone to sleep. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip overnight. It's tangled up in what's left unsaid, in the looks that still sting, in the pride that takes time to soften. Sometimes the hardest battles happen not in the wild, but inside ourselves. So maybe this story isn't about who won the challenge or who proved what. Maybe it's about the spaces between us, the silence, the tension, the hope that someday those gaps can close. I'm still walking that path, still learning when to hold on and when to let go. If any part of this story echoes with you, if you've ever felt underestimated, pushed aside, or struggled to prove your worth, then maybe we're not so different after all. Maybe this is why you're here. I'd love to hear what skill you've always wanted to learn outside, or a moment when nature taught you something unexpected. Share your story below. If this touched you even a little, a like or a subscription lets me know you're walking this journey with me. Because sometimes knowing you're not alone is the greatest lesson of all.